My name is Caitlin Callahan and I'm a writing major.
My name is Emma McCoy and I am a master's student here at Point Loma Nazarene University. I'm in my second year getting a master's in writing with a fiction concentration.
I'm Mila Kuiper and I'm a writing major.
Do you read often?
Do I read often? Yes.
I do read often, especially lately. I think this year I set a Goodreads goal to read 22 books and I've already read half of that, so.
I read my Bible every day, but I don't read literature often.
I think I've always been a reader. My mom taught me to read by the time I was 4. I was reading pretty fluently. I grew up in a household where words were very important, and so I was reading kind of anything that I could get my hands on at a young age, and now I'm at the point where I read about 100 books a year.
So I'm a Christian, and when I was younger, even in like teenage years, there was a Christian bookstore nearby that I really liked to go to with my mom, and there was a Christian literature section for kids, and I loved picking out books from there. When they took that out, it was harder for me to find books that I felt comfortable reading with my Christian tradition, and so I just haven't been able to read a lot because I haven't found books that I liked.
What does reading mean to you?
I think reading to me, besides just the pure joy and pleasure of it, means being able to have more than one experience than the one that you just have on this earth. It means being able to experience other people's point of view, other people's lives, other people's embodiment. And I just think of how limited I would feel without reading, because without reading, I've just got this body, I've just got this perspective, I've just got this story. But by reading, it makes my life incredibly more rich.
A very important part of, I think, my Christian faith and Christian faith in general, because reading is so essential to how the Bible was written and how it's been passed down through generations. And so I think reading is an essential part of life, and it should be an essential part of life for everyone, because you gain so much knowledge. There's a wealth of knowledge out there to be gained from reading.
I think reading fiction is like how I learn about the world, because there's a lot of truth in it told through a more palatable lens, and I don't know, not as easy of a lens as like TikTok videos.
I'm a writing major, not necessarily because I only like writing and reading, but because I love storytelling, and reading books are just one form of that.
Tell me about a book that changed your life.
Book that changed my life.
Okay, it's just my favorite book of all time. It's called The Lies of Locke Lamora, and it's a fantasy heist novel set in like 15th century fantasy Venice. And it changed my life, I think, because it just has the most satisfying ending of any book I've ever read, and I didn't realize that books could do that. And it's not like it was a particularly profound story, but it was just so tightly written, and all these little threads that were like pulled on in the beginning, they all come together at the end. And yeah, if I could write something like that one day, I would die a happy man.
A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. I read that in Dr. Carl Martin's American Literature Since 1900 class, and it was just so big, and it seemed so pretentious that I really wasn't excited to read it. But then when I actually got into it, I found it to be so compelling, because the narrator, who is a middle-aged man, is just so deeply lonely. And he acknowledges that, but he also seems to be okay with it. And as someone who is an undergrad, trying to find myself, trying to find the right group of friends, trying to understand who I am, I knew, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that. Like, I don't want to romanticize my loneliness and become so friendly with loneliness that this is what my life ends up looking like. And it really spawned a lot of change for me.
It was the first book series. It was a 3-book series written by, his name was Wayne Thomas Botson, and it was a fantasy series. It was a first book series that I ate up. I loved that series. It was about a character named Archer who could travel like in dreams, and he was like fighting stuff in the dream world. I'm big on adventure and fantasy, so that was the first book series that I really got into as someone who liked the idea of fantasy from like previously seeing TV shows and things like that.
Do you believe that reading is political?
I believe that reading is political in the sense that a lot of what we do is political. I think I would answer the same way to if someone said, do you think that reading is like a religious or spiritual act? I would say similarly, I don't think you can have thoughts or experiences that aren't religious or spiritual.
I mean, personally, I think everything that we do has some sort of political implications because everything that we do has spiritual implications that involve worldviews and belief systems, and I think those are all tied to politics. So even if reading is just for entertainment, which I think a lot of, especially currently, there's a push to have only reading that's for entertainment in certain circles, I think that it's still all eventually related to politics because it's related to worldviews and worldview systems.
I guess especially with like all the banned books and stuff, it's really interesting to see like what books are banned and why.
I mean, the Bible's been banned in multiple countries for different reasons. Obviously, it's such a powerful book in and of itself.
But I think the politicization of reading can be found when there are limits that are being put structurally to what is allowed to be read or not.
Because like reading fundamentally is education. I think that that's political in and of itself, because I don't know, that's like how you choose to educate yourself as opposed to just what you're told.
All books are tied to the political, which is ultimately tied to the worldview and belief systems, and so every book pushes a certain agenda, and all those agendas have power. And so when you have conflicting agendas, we have conflicting powers. And so yes, I would say that all books do carry power, and that is very important to why books get banned in the first place.
I'm a firm believer in parents or guardians or community members being able to regulate what children should and shouldn't read and what isn't appropriate for children. Because as someone who had a very high reading level at a very young age, I often read things that were not appropriate for me that just slipped through my mom's notice, like Water for Elephants, A Tale for the Time Being, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. But I'm okay and I'm still here, and it's not the role of someone who isn't a community member or my mom or my dad to tell me that, no, you're not allowed to read this because you can't handle it. Because how could a stranger know what I can and can't handle? I think that not only is reading political, it is also deeply interpersonal, and those things are very intertwined.